Howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast 222. Happy New Year to you all. Thanks ever so much for dropping on by. I'm really grateful. Thank you for all the New Year's well wishes from you folks. Some great emails and comments. Greatly appreciated. Can't say that enough. So thank you for your continuing support. Thank you for those of you who keep pushing out the Moose Podcast. I keep hearing from more and more folks from around the globe, which is just so wicked cool. So thank you all. Also want to thank my good friends at Bedford Camera, bedfords.com, for supporting the Moose Podcast. My latest fun thing, well, I had a project, so I got two projects coming up. I think they justified buying a new lens, so I called up Bedford's and boom, the Z70 to 200 2.8 lens and 1.4 converter now in the locker. I don't know how they make it happen. The killer price, the killer service had it in stock. So, hey, you guys can get the exact same thing. I'm nothing special there. I'm just Moose. But you can save real money by telling them or using the special discount code MOOSE when you check out. Save some real money, free shipping for most states, no sales tax. And tell them thanks for all they're doing. They've managed to keep on going through these times and keep us supplied, and they're cheery about it. Bedfords.com, Bedford Camera. Thanks, guys. Let's get right into this week's topic. One of those emails that came in this week, well, it was a great one. It had me laughing. It was a great email. And the subject line was New Year, New Genre, Resolution. How could I not open up an email with that kind of a subject? Basically, summing it all up, this photographer, like so many, has been basically locked up for very many months. Their normal genre of photography, just not practical during these times. So their New Year resolution was to find a new genre and get good at it. So he asked me for some suggestions, asked me for ideas, and that's where, well, I kind of had to laugh and had to stumble, had to think about it. So here's my answer to you. First and foremost, a new genre of photography. That is not something like you could just throw a dart or look at photographs or just, wish it, and it happens right now. Even in the best of times, just because you want to do it doesn't mean you can. So there's the first thing I would suggest when it comes to thinking of a new genre of photography. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, for example, I sat there and many years ago went from wildlife photographer and added aviation. And those are two different genres in photography. So I added that new genre to my repertoire, my library of images. That's what I'm talking about. You might be doing portraiture. Now you want to do stamp collecting. You might do fashion, and now you want to do antique cars. Yeah, there's still camera, still light involved, but it's totally different genres, different ways of making things happen. So in this process, you have to decide what genre. How do you do that? You got to think of a couple things. The first thing I'm going to put out there, not to be crass, but it's the real world is the money part. Picking a genre which is going to really tax your savings, your income, be it traveling places, taking time from work, buying new camera gear, whatever it is, it's going to actually, take money away from everything you do right now. You might not want to explore that genre at the moment. Next, I would highly recommend that whatever genre you are trying to think about getting into, you first sit there and do a lot of looking at photographs within that genre. Let's say, for example, you decide you want to do landscape photography. Well, first thing landscape photography requires is a lot of travel. You can do a lot literally in your own backyard. But in order to keep moving forward, you're going to have to change that genre. And if you live in the desert, right, you can do all desert. What happens if you want to do forest? So you got to think about those things as you pick that genre you want to move to. At the same time, if you all of a sudden decide you want to go into wildlife photography, which, as you might imagine, is one I'm all for and willing to help you any way I can. But understand that you have to have two things to make wildlife photography really happen. Number one are the critters. No critters, no pictures, okay? That's just the way it works. And number two, at some point, you're going to have a lens greater than 400 millimeters. So when you pick that genre, think about, do your homework, think it all through, write down pros and cons, what is going to work for you and your situation. The next, write down, think about it. What is it about that genre that you have selected that you really love? I mean, really love. One that, what is it that just thinking about it gets you so excited, you might not be able to sleep at night. So excited, you wake up before the alarm. So excited that even though all the conditions outside or whatever it is are so raunchy, you're going to go make it happen. That's the kind of genre you want to find when it comes to a new one. What's going to excite you? What piques your interest is the next thing. And most importantly, what's going to help fuel your passion? Now think about this as you select that genre. How far afield is it from what you're currently doing? And in other words, if right now you're doing still lives in your kitchen, and all of a sudden you decide you want to go photograph rocket launchings at Cape Canaveral, there's a big difference between a fruit bowl and a rocket ship. Is that within your means? As in, can you switch from a macro lens and totally controlled lighting to a scenario where you're going to have no control on the lighting, perhaps for quite a while, no control even where you set up to take your pictures as you sit there and refine your craft? So you've got to think about that part of the genre you want to select as well. Now, once you start getting past these kind of things, think about this genre you want to move into, start going after. Can you think of and write down a 1, a 3, and a 5-year goal that you would like to see that genre do for you? In other words, in 1 year, do you want to see yourself being really good at that genre? In 1 year, do you want to see yourself perhaps putting out a shingle saying, I'm here with these pictures? In 1 year, do you just want to have that one photograph that says, okay, this whole year is worthwhile? And can you say the same thing for the 3 and the 5 year? In other words, project out what you expect to accomplish with that genre. At the same time, what do you want that genre to do for you? For example, in 5 years, this new genre, will it provide me with really great mental, emotional, technical resources to move forward my main genre of photography? Because remember, we're not talking about giving up our main passion. We're talking about adding to it, moving that ball forward by challenging ourselves with something we can photograph that will also lend itself to what I really love to do. To pick on that fruit bowl and rocket again, right? That macro lens ain't going to serve the rocket very well. That telephoto lens for the rocket's not going to serve that fruit bowl very well. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's within your means and that's really what lights your fire, then you need to do that. But in that process, what will photographing that rocket lend to that fruit bowl? I'm not suggesting that you put motors on the bottom of your fruit bowl and shoot it through the roof. That wouldn't be a really great idea. Nor going out there and putting a bunch of pineapples at the bottom of the rocket ship. Might not be a great idea. But there's other things, perhaps with light, perhaps with smoke, right? You might be able to sit there and work and get really into that blast coming out of that rocket, and then, oh, maybe I should add some dry ice to my fruit bowl. Whenever you sit there and think about these different possibilities, you kind of have to think a little bit outside the box. And if you've never done it before, the new genre, that's where doing the homework and looking at the photographs in that genre can help you. So that'd be the next thing thinking about is what I've talked about before, the idea file, where you take screen grabs or write it down on a piece of paper or put it in a digital notebook, however you want to do it. Ideas. I saw this photograph that has this, this, and this. I want to see if I can do it. I saw this photograph with that, that, and that. I want to go do that. I like this lighting technique. I want to learn how this lighting technique works. I like the way these elements pop. What lens and focal length were being used, and how far away were they when they took the picture, and what kind of depth of focus were they using? Those idea files will help you propel yourself in that new genre where perhaps the creative ideas aren't going to be flowing as quickly as your main genre because it's new. And when anything's new, sometimes you got to find some outside influences to help you push that forward. At the same time, because we're just piling on, it's not like you're going to just pick out one of these things I'm talking about. You're going to do them all at the same time if you're going to sit there and switch genres. You got to sit there and think about the fact that you're going to fail. That's part of the process. What do you want to learn from that failure? Do you know how to approach failure and put a positive spin on it? Taking those things that worked, making sure you do those again, and those things that didn't work, make sure you don't do those things again. All of that has to be piled into that. Now, I mentioned myself already going from wildlife to aviation. A lot of folks don't realize I started off in fashion, shooting people and clothes to sell clothes. Now, it didn't last more than a few months because it was really obvious, not that I couldn't take the pictures. I was really good at it. It was real obvious that I couldn't be a really good husband and father with the kind of schedule needed to be successful in fashion photography. So, boom, it went out the window. Then I was going to be a landscape photographer. I really thought that'd be the way to go. And it didn't take a whole lot of homework to realize that back in the early or late 70s, early 80s, there's some really great landscape photographers out there that this newbie here would never be able to compete against and get that page space and make the money. So then I fell back on what everybody told me I would never succeed at. That's wildlife photography. Yeah, I had a bunch of folks say, don't go there. I'm no good. You'll never make it. I still have people tell me that, but ignore that stuff, okay? Bottom line is, in this process, failure is part of the whole scenario of going into a new genre of photography. It's part of the process of going into your first genre. It's part of the process of working the same genre for 40 years. Failure is part of the process. It's something that you should be embracing and learning from, because that lesson you learned, or lessons, no matter what genre you're currently shooting, moving to, want to move to, those failures can be applied to all of them. That's the beauty of it. Got to keep an open mind. Got to have some self-confidence. You got to feel what you're doing and like it more than thinking about it. And then you're going to find that new genre will support your old genre. And all of that will just light the fire of your own creativity in photography. And that's really the bottom line. So I hope these suggestions help. Hope the ideas kind of, stir some thought in you. And then you truly go and pursue what you suggested in the email. I think that's just really cool. I applaud you for it. I'm not that ambitious for that kind of a New Year's resolution for myself, but you got that New Year, new genre resolution, go for it. I'm 100% behind you. Well, you folks take care out there. Stay safe. Keep on getting out with that camera. And remember to make every click your story.